good stuff.
Welcome back, everybody, to Goodwill Podcasting with Connor, Dan, and Stone, your movie podcast that today is talking about fours. Not only what you call out when you're hitting a ball down the driving range, but also four great-looking gentlemen talking about golfing movies. That's right. This week, I believe, is the Masters, so we thought it'd be fun to do an episode based on the sport. And we're talking about three movies today. That is Caddyshack, Happy Gilmore, and maybe a more underseen movie called The Legend of Bagger Vance. And we're not doing it alone. We do have four. We do have a guest, and it's none other than Kev. Movie, I think it's three mans. Man. So we appreciate you being on, and I also thought of you. I messaged you. This is the first time on the pod, hopefully the first of many. But I messaged you because you're a big sports guy. I know you're down in Miami. You have a lot of teams down there that you really like. But how is your relationship with golf?
So I actually used to love golf a lot more than I do now, per se, but just because I just don't have the time. But yeah, I grew up playing all the time. I grew up in golf camps. Obviously being down here in Florida, the weather is perfect pretty much year round for golf. But I'm a huge sports fan in general. Baseball, basketball, football, golf, everything you name it. So yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good relationship with golf. I've broken a couple clubs in my time from frustration, but yeah, that's why I'm excited to talk about Happy Gilmore, because it's right up my alley.
Kev's biopic right there.
Yes. Yeah.
I say, hey, Connor, you were telling us, I didn't know this. We've been friends for like a year or two. You actually caddied for years?
Yeah, I started caddying in 2012, and I caddied till 2017 when I was leaving for boot camp.
So how was it similar to Caddyshack? Was there a lot of rich guys that just chucked money at you all the time and said, "Here you go, kid, give me a drink," stuff like that?
The country club I did bartend there, but I've caddied Baggerman and bartended there, is the only country club I could ever work at, because there's a balance of people who just want to drink beer and bullshit and talk like a normal human, and then people like the judge in Caddyshack. So yeah, there was people who were tight and would not pay you nearly anything. They would just pay you the base rate plus an extra $2. And then there was other people who actually, the guy who I caddied for the most is probably most comparable. I forget his name in Caddyshack, but the guy who has the beer tap in his bag and the speaker on his bag.
Al. Yeah, Al's pretty funny.
The guy caddy for the most could be the most compared to him.
That's what I expect all golfers to be, is Al. Just having a good time, not caring, having their yachts, just going out all the time on the range.
Mm-hmm.
But Dan, I was shocked by this, Kev. But Dan's not a fan of golf.
Okay.
You said baseball. Out of the three of us, these guys are I love sports. I mean, I was up late last night watching Houston and Duke. Really good game, by the way, if anybody missed it. But these guys are way more sports heads than I am. But I was surprised to find out that Dan could not give more of a fuck about golf. I think is what you said. Less of a fuck. Sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
I think the thing is, I think a lot of times if your dad is into it, you get into it. My dad is not a golfer, and I never grew up golfing. I grew up playing pretty much every single sport except for golf. And yeah, and I still respect the game, and I think it can be really interesting. But it's just not something I ever really cared to follow or really get into.
Yeah, I
I'm a golfer.
kind of agree with him on that a little bit. I haven't followed the game in a while. I played it fairly often, but I haven't followed it as far as I know Rory McIlroy and those guys, but as far as I think my buddies were talking about it the other day, and they're bringing up these guys' names. I'm like, what are you talking about?
People get so into it too, it's crazy.
They're betting on it, and I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Is Tiger Woods still a thing? And they're like, what are you talking about? So yeah.
With that,
I mean, Kev, have you seen those betting commercials now? You don't need to know about sports to bet. Just bet, baby.
Yeah, just rip it.
Yeah.
I mean, Stone, I'm playing a pretty avid golfer. I don't give a shit about golf.
Oh, well, I would say, does it track out with dancing? Like you get into golf if your fathers have gotten into golf. Is your Kev, Connor, are both your dads into golf? No.
My dad used to be heavily into golf. He's obviously a little older now. He doesn't play as much as he used to, but he used to play all the time. My brother as well. But it was like miserable to go out on the golf course with them because they're massive hotheads, and it's just the whole time it's just them. Yeah, fuck, shit, throwing clubs, just like, and I'm just like, I'm the guy that just wants to like have a beer, have a couple beers.
I feel like it's supposed to be relaxing. Like that's
that's not. It was who could play better, and then a shouting match because it hit some balls in the water, and it just I'm just there for a good time. That's it.
I was gonna say it's funny because like my best friend and him and I are like, the odd men out every time we're on the golf course because him and I actually just like love the game of golf and we don't drink on the course like at all. Meanwhile, like a lot of our generation got into golf just as an excuse to go drink somewhere.
You're a purist.
Drink and walk. Yeah.
You're a purist.
I said I'll never forget it though. When you guys were talking about your fathers, I remember. I think it was my senior year of college, and my last year of college, and I had this little memorial service that we went to for a family friend of ours. Whatever. Like I said, I was in a very specific location, and I was like, I'm gonna go up with my dad. I've been thinking about it for a while. I'm gonna tell him I'm gonna get golf. I'm trying to start up this conversation with him. So I told him. I said, Dad, I'm thinking about getting into golf. I'll never forget. He looks at me and goes, "Why? It's boring." I was like, well, that kind of, I thought it'd be fun. And he's like, no. So that was my relationship. That's the only relationship I have with my dad in golf is that conversation.
You know what's funny though is like I will have people that literally argue. Like I have buddies that love golf. They'll watch a Thursday. Like the first round of the whole match. And if I watch golf, it's gonna be like Sunday. I want to see the final round. And they will literally tell me all day, like, baseball is so boring. Like, I can never watch baseball. And I'm like, dude, you're sitting there watching, first of all, the first round of a golf tournament, which, like, unless some guy plays terrible and doesn't make the cut, like, it's pretty irrelevant. And you're telling me that watching baseball is boring? Because I love baseball. But I get that all the time with, like, I can't sit and watch 3 hours of baseball, but you're sitting and watch a guy. Like,
and on that, it's like most people, if they watch golf, like usually want to watch one guy, and like
Correct.
You just don't get that for like the entire like 8-hour stream or whatever it is. Whereas baseball, at least you get to watch, every single person at least one time.
100%.
Yeah, I don't really understand the baseball discourse. Like, I grew up watching it as a kid, so I kind of got into that early. But I just think the game is so interesting, and like every single at bat has like a different matchup, and like
Thank you.
there are so many different little storylines in every game, and like people that are, on a hot streak, people that are in slumps. Like, well, there's so much going on, and so much strategy. I love the game. I just,
yeah,
a lot of people can't stand it. I don't know.
It's funny that my only relationship with golf really in the last couple of years, I don't know if you guys have done this or the same. So I go to Top Golfs a lot. I like Top Golfs. I like going out there on the driving range and not knowing a shit about shit and just hitting a ball as best as I can. I've never learned how to play golf. I've learned through Top Golf, just doing it 50 times. I'm like, okay, I think this swing kind of works. My wife, sadly, she's over here just sitting listening to us. She is really good at beating me. And I'm so frustrated because I think like I hit it far, it's going long, but always curves to the right, and I never get any points or whatever. She's just good at like just chipping it in, just one little hole.
Yeah.
Rotate your wrist over.
I'll try to remember. Rotate my wrist.
Yeah, your bottom. Are you a lefty or a righty?
I'm a righty. Hold on. Let me
rotate your right wrist. Left.
Rotate my
gritty
right.
here.
Okay. Right, my right wrist left.
Yeah, so like that.
Okay. You better watch out, Leah. I'm coming.
It's 26 now.
But we could start getting into Caddyshack though. So I was surprised when I looked up a list of the greatest golfing movies of all time, and this was it. This was number one. And this is my first time ever watching this movie. And It's very interesting, I would say. I like that we are talking also about Happy Gilmore because I think there's a lot of SNL, obviously with Adam Sandler and Happy Gilmore, but also in this with like Chevy Chase and Bill Murray and everything like that. Dan, I think you had some. Well, it's funny because you can say, "What is the plot of this movie?" to open it up really well. It kind of feels like it doesn't have a plot. It just meanders. It felt very similar, in my opinion, to Sandlot, where it felt just like a summer and it felt like a sport during a summer. And I think that the Sandlot really had a really good driving narrative and actually really you really felt for the characters. It's a lot more serious, but it's also fun as well, just I think because it's kids. But Dan, what about Caddyshack didn't work for you? Because you're like, what is this?
Yeah, no, and I've seen it before. I think some of it's funny. It does have like there are different through lines. There are different like plot lines that a lot of it is like romantic. And some of that's kind of strange. But to me, this is just like a bunch of comedians on coke, just like trying to make a movie, which is exactly what it was. Um, and I'm sure they had a great time making it, but like to watch, it feels a bit disjointed. I also think like I think they shot like 4 hours of this movie or something, and they had to cut a lot of it down. Um, to me, the most entertaining part of Caddyshack is just watching Bill Murray try to kill the gopher. Like I would watch like 2 hours of that storyline.
100%.
I feel like he's just absolutely crushing it the entire time. But I don't know. Chevy Chase, I also just find to be generally kind of grating. Um, I don't know. I think I like Harold Ramis too. Like I like his kind of style of comedy. He did Christmas Vacation. He did Analyze This. He did Groundhog Day. Um, I like all those movies. I just think this is just, and I think part of it too is probably my detachment from golf. Because if you just enjoy the vibe of like the course and you've met a lot of people like these people, you probably can connect to it more. But for me, it just like I don't quite have that. So yeah, it's just a little bit all over the place, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. And it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think the way you put it is like kind of like an SNL skit. It's almost just like a elongated SNL skit where it's like a bunch of skits just pieced together, and it's not really that cohesive. I agree with Dan in saying that I would love to just watch Bill Murray, just do that plot line the entire film. I like the comparison to Sandlot because it is kind of just like to where I think you do need to have a little bit of a connection to the game and a connection to what's going on in the narrative. Because for me, when I love Sandlot, it's like it reminds me of summer, my friends playing pickup baseball, and I feel like if you don't have that like connection to that, it may not resonate as much because like the plot line is kind of just like that is the plot line, where we met a new kid, he's not good at the game, we're trying to teach him how to play the game, doesn't really know much about baseball, that's kind of the plot line. Whereas Caddyshack is just like a day on the golf course, and if you're not used to that, it kind of could meander, and if the comedy doesn't really hit, then you're kind of just sitting there watching a plot line you don't care too much about.
I think there's also stuff like that for every single sport. Like I feel like Slapshot is very much that for hockey. Where like if you're have you guys seen Slapshot?
It's been a while, but yeah, I know. Yeah,
Like if you don't really appreciate and love the game, you're just kind of going to be like, this is not interesting. I feel like every sport has those movies, but
100%.
Does that like make other sports movies excel for you? Because I feel like Sandlot's like that, but anybody, in my opinion, anybody who watches Sandlot can really get behind it because you do have the focus on somebody who's never played the sport before, right? So as an audience member, we were just talking about this with the Minecraft movie, me and Dan were, but I think that you don't have like the audience needs a character that they can attach to, which is why I think Dan was saying, why didn't the Minecraft movie just take place in the Minecraft world? Why do you have to incorporate humans? Because I think that is your stand-in for your audience, right? Normal people going here. So you have that in Sandlot. You necessarily don't have that here because Danny Noonan is already a caddy. So I think that's why I think Sandlot maybe excels at this more so than Caddyshack. But it's funny. It totally makes sense that Dan, like when you said the fact that they shot like 4 hours of this and kind of just put a movie together, because I was reading so many reviews and so many people were like, I kind of forgot that Danny Noonan's like the main character of this movie. Because if you look at the poster, he's not on the poster. Obviously, he wasn't a big name, but the movie, he's not the highlight of the movie, I think, for anybody. And it's funny that Dan mentioned funny things with romance. I had to look up some ages of this when I watched it. Everyone was good.
Yeah.
I think they were kind of portraying Danny as a 18-year-old, and I had to make sure that I remembered that I think he's supposed to be 18 in this. Because for a while there, I thought he was in high school, but I think we're good. But I think everyone was like 25 when they shot this, basically.
I also thought he was in high school up until he was talking to his dad and made the comment about this year he's going to go for it since he took the last summer off or whatever, like how he worded it. That was like my first click. What's I think the most surprising to me though about this movie is that Dan doesn't love the scene where they use a candy bar to make it look like poop. I thought that would be, Dan's favorite.
Yeah.
I will say Bill Murray just munching on it was really pretty funny. I say Bill Murray is pretty much the highlight of this movie. He's like, I'm very good.
I mean, Bill Murray's a highlight of most he does. So,
I'm not.
but I
usually a
will
Bill Murray
say, if
fan.
there's a 4 hour cut, they need to release the Caddyshack cut, right? That's what we do now. So, like, release the Caddyshack cut. I can just imagine it's just 4 hours of just nonsense. Like, there's just not much it's like Dan said, it's just a bunch of guys on coke. Just like it doesn't make any sense. Like, I need to see it now.
Was this like a dad lore movie for you guys? Like, does all of your dads love this movie?
No, my dad said golf was boring, so not at least my father.
My dad does love this film. My dad does like this film. Yeah, but
Yeah, I think my dad likes it too. And I think
My
Stone,
dad quotes it religiously.
kind of like what you were saying, Stone. I think Danny is like the kind of audience's way into the story because he's kind of like normal, and you're surrounded by all these like pompous, like wealthy
Okay.
people that have like this attitude. And I mean, the point of the story is kind of him trying to like navigate his way through them and like make something of himself and like figure out what he wants to do with his life. And like, I get that. I just think when people think about Caddyshack, nobody thinks about.
So you definitely forget about that.
Yeah, it's also one of the movies I think like if you ask people if they liked it, everyone would be like, yeah. But then you go back and rewatch it, and it's like, this is just.
it doesn't age. I don't think it ages gracefully, to be quite honest.
Yeah,
But that's just me.
I will admit, like, I had the Sandlot in my mind the entire time watching this, and even though there is some SNL humor in this, I was still thinking about it in that light. And then I saw like tits, and I was like, okay, well, I'm not thinking about Sandlot anymore. I wasn't expecting to see that.
Sandlot's a bit more wholesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I
No,
guess
you
golf
have-
is a man's game.
I mean, you literally have a bunch of like eccentric personalities: Rodney Dangerfield, Chevy Chase. Like, it's just Bill Murray. It's. I don't know. It's not my favorite. It's definitely, if you talk about golf movies, I would say like, okay, so I'm a person that like, see, Happy Gilmore kind of like skirts that line for me because I'm a person that likes more of the game in the movies. Like, I want more of like, that's why when we talk about Legend of Bagger Vance, I loved the golf scenes. I thought the golf scenes were fantastic. And for me, like, this is kind of just like, it's a comedy, but the golf is just kind of like there. That's why even like the Sandlot's good because the scenes involving baseball were fantastic. But Happy Gilmore kind of skirts that line. I kind of give it a pass because it's just that funny that I like allow it to be like more of a comedy than actual golf movie. But also so many of the golf scenes are iconic. Like you remember them to a T. So it's like to tap it in and like those scenes that involve being on a golf course and playing the actual game. So like for me, it's like, I don't know, if I want a sports movie, I want more of it to lean in the sports direction. And this one kind of just feels like it's comedy. And then you got the Bill Murray plot line. And then it's just kind of like golf's mixed in.
It's an SNL skit, or it's like it's a comedy sketch that just happens to be set on a golf course. That's
Correct.
it. And I
100%.
think I agree with what you're saying because I think golf is also a game that's very like cinematic. Like it lends itself
Mhm.
to. It's pretty easy to make it interesting. It's also like it's so very personal and very mental. So I think it's easy to have interesting characters and interesting portrayals of the game itself. And I think Happy Gilmore, I think perfectly mixes its comedy into the game. So like you're still
Mhm.
getting those moments of like intensity or whatever, but it's also very funny and slapstick, whatever.
100%. That's why I'm surprised that you saw an article or whatever that says the number one golf movie because I don't know. I just don't see it that way. Like,
So to be fair, I looked up one article. I looked up
I feel like
top 10 golf movies. Happy Gilmore was third.
what was two?
Tin Cup, maybe.
I can't remember. It might have been Tin Cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, out of all the sports, golf doesn't really have a lot of
No,
like
doesn't.
standout movies.
It doesn't. I'd say it's probably golf and probably basketball. I feel like basketball actually should have more good movies.
Yes.
They don't have enough.
Agree.
I feel like there should be more. I feel like baseball, if I'm being honest, I think baseball has the best movies. I can name so many. Major League, Moneyball, like there's a ton of them. And then, football has a bunch too. But basketball, I feel like is lacking. They should have way more.
And boxing, like
Boxing, it's up there.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're about to have the animated GOAT movie with, Stephen Curry there. So Steph Curry.
Think about that. When's the last time you had a good basketball movie? Like Coach Carter?
Wasn't there that I never watched it, but did any of you guys watch the Way Back with Ben Affleck?
Yeah,
Wasn't that
yeah.
basketball?
Yeah.
was that?
It really is a good question though, because also basketball is so wildly popular, and I think it's a sport that's growing the fastest. I think a lot of a lot of parents don't want their kids playing like football now. I feel like basketball is like anyone can play it anywhere. Like you don't need anything. It's just like
You just need a
there
ball.
should be more good movies, and they're like when you think about like the top 10 basketball movies of all time, like stuff like Coach Carter like is in there when it maybe shouldn't be, but like
Okay, it's fine. Like it's not bad, but it's not like
Yeah.
You probably got like what White Man Can't Jump. That's probably
It's
the one right.
2022 version, obviously.
Yeah.
I'll say
Yeah.
a movie that came out recently that wasn't bad, and I think it's a good,
Also,
good to bring this. I was just gonna say, yeah, it was Hustle because Adam Sandler,
Yeah,
and it's cool to it's cool to see. I mean, you also have Uncut Gems, so he's like, and I think it's very notoriously known that he's really good at basketball. So it's cool that he's kind of. I mean, Uncut Gems it's very basketball's at the center of it,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really cool that he has two films like that.
Yeah, that's why I'm terrified. We could talk about it when we talk about Happy Gilmore, but I'm terrified about Happy Gilmore too because I just don't know if he has the comedy shtick anymore. It seems like his bread and butter lately, his drama is dramatic films. Like I made a video about this like a while ago, but like remember when's the last time he's made a good comedy film? Like a genuinely like the first Grown Ups maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm actually not the biggest fan of the Grown Ups movies, but I know people like them. So, but
I think there's a big old Netflix banner. Sorry, I said Netflix might be the main reason why there isn't any
maybe
good comedies from him.
maybe.
Yeah.
Also, Glory Road is a good basketball movie, and then Hoosiers.
Hoosiers is good. Hoosiers is good. Yeah.
And He Got Game, which we just talked about, and then Hoop Dreams, which I have not seen.
I have yeah.
Yeah, there aren't enough. That's crazy.
Yeah, but Caddyshack. I mean, Connor, this is maybe your movie because you were a caddy. So what did you? Connor's a big stickler when it comes to things they got right, things they got wrong in a movie, like accuracies, because he was in the military. So that's also one thing they looks at when we look at films like that. What did you see, Connor? What stuck out to you, good or bad?
It's hard to compare, like for me, just because even in Cincinnati in like the modern day, like every country club did caddying differently. Like for us, we had to be in khaki shorts or pants, white t-shirt, like white polo shirt, and like very respectful. You would have got fired if you were like smoking on the course. Sadly, we didn't actually have a Caddyshack. We were begging for one the entire time, but instead we just sat on like the back patio and played like Egyptian rat screw and bullshit until like we were told we're getting out. So, I mean, for the most part, it seemed fine. Honestly, I think the caddy scenes in Bagger Vance are substantially better and more accurate to what a caddy is. Then this one is literally just seems like a high school goof off movie.
Yeah, it doesn't look like they were probably trying to.
Yeah, I don't think the accuracy was important.
Yeah, like I wasn't going into this like trying to nitpick it for that. Do you guys know what the hardest scene in the movie to film was for them?
The pool scene.
No, when Chevy Chase goes and like hits his ball into Bill Murray's little shack, because Bill Murray and Chevy Chase hate each other like off screen.
Yep.
Oh.
They had a really, really bad falling out at SNL. Had like a really big rivalry because they're both. I mean, they're both huge assholes in real life, like huge, massive, especially Chevy Chase. So ego wise, that was not.
You hear those stories of Chevy on Community and everything. Apparently, they all couldn't stand the guy.
He was my least favorite character. With that being said, he did play the character of the old racist guy at college really well.
Shocker.
Well, I will say this. Just thinking, I was thinking about him because I feel like was this like the height of his maybe popularity? Maybe
Right around.
19. Maybe because it seems like that's why he's here. Like it's Chevy Chase. Because out of all the characters, he seems the least like absurdist, like more reserved really than anybody else. He's there to be like the handsome lead in a way, and he does look pretty good in this movie. I'm not gonna lie, but different than the other guys, he's doing the least, I would say, out of the other three guys on the poster.
I mean, this was before. I think these were before Christmas Vacation.
Yep. Yeah.
These were before Vacation. Yeah, because National Lampoon's Vacation came out in 1983. And then obviously those other ones came out after. So I feel like the Vacation movies were like kind of the height of his stardom. So this was maybe like right before like he was kind of ready to take off. Like when he was on SNL and everything.
To me, he's just like trying. They like wrote him to be like the really cool guy, and he gets like the attractive
hero
girl.
Of the story, essentially.
And that's what made me think that. It's like, oh, it's Chevy Chase. We got to give him this role.
Yeah, I was reading the scene with like the baby oil and stuff, which he just like did that, and she was like, "What are you doing?" That was like her actual reaction. Which like that's something. Also, I wanted to say, Connor, you'll appreciate this. All the puppet work and everything with the gopher, that was John Dykstra, who was one of the guys who basically founded ILM and did all the work on Star Wars and all of that. So like. That took a lot of work, and that was Dykstra, which I thought was a fun little.
That's pretty cool. That's a little fun fact.
Also, Rodney Dangerfield like had no idea what he was doing. Like the first time they called action, he just stood there and was just like, "What's happening?"
He's my favorite character.
He's funny.
I like him.
Yeah, he's great. It's great.
What we doing? He just sounds like what he's.
He's just so eccentric. Like you have to enjoy almost everything he's doing because he's just such an interesting, just personality in general. Like he's one of those guys. I'm trying to think if like there's anyone like acting today that just like when they're on screen they're just so like eccentric that you're just like enthralled by them.
It's tough. I mean, comedy nowadays, like Dan, I don't really like comedy that much, but especially nowadays, that might be why.
Tim Robinson, honestly.
Yes.
I'll say Dan's watched Friendship, so.
You saw Friend. I'm so jealous you saw Friendship. I'm so excited for that movie.
I think I hope it does amazingly well. I think it's so fucking funny. I can't.
Is it actually funny? Like it's like legit.
Dude, like the theater was almost laughing the entire movie. Like he's just someone where like he knows like the way he delivers his lines. Like even the most mundane shit he says is just funny because like he understands like the timing and the delivery. Like his cadence is like nobody else has that.
Yeah.
And Paul Rudd is just doing Anchorman. Paul Rudd, which is like to me that's funny.
That's fine. Yeah.
But it's really good.
I told Dan how funny it was that because he went and saw it at South by Southwest, and at South by Southwest he saw Death of a Unicorn and Friendship. So he saw literally two Paul Rudd comedies from A24, and one the Paul Ruddism didn't work, and the other one it did.
Normally Paul Rudd works for me. Like literally, like my favorite comedy is I Love You Man. So like.
Yeah,
I heard someone say that movie could be like that movie on steroids, like with more awkward, like tones to it. So I'm super excited for it.
This was also Harold Ramis's directorial debut, which I can imagine was insane trying to manage like these
That
personalities.
is insane.
Damn, yeah.
Yeah.
And like we touched on, I mean, Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, the last time they saw this before this, they fought. The last time they saw each other. So like fought physically. So that was probably a lot to manage for a young director.
Do we know who won? My money's on Chevy. Chevy's a pretty big guy.
Chevy was big, yeah.
Yeah.
Was bigger at that point.
I
Yeah.
feel like Bill Murray fights dirty.
Fights dirty? Yeah, I could see
Yeah,
that.
I could see that as well.
Did you see Bill? Did you see Bill had like an altercation like a couple days ago with like a fan or something?
Yeah.
What?
How
Yeah.
old is he? How old was the fan? Bill's getting up there.
I don't know if it was a fan or a reporter or someone got like too close to him and he got all like
He's an angry dude, yeah.
bent out of shape about it.
That's funny. Just as a quick tangent, I remember Gene Hackman just died. He used to he would fight like in public. He beat some guy's ass like in traffic when he was like 75, which is crazy.
Oh fuck with Gene, man.
Nah, he was.
Sounds like you in Philly.
Yeah. Well, separate story there.
I'll
But
touch my-
Yeah, I mean Bill's like 75 years old. Like just leave him alone. Like honestly, those guys are so old and just like grumpy. Like why? Like just leave him alone.
honestly, you
Can't remember
gotta
who-
be surprised that Clint Eastwood hasn't, hit the headlines for that. I feel like that would fit the shtick.
Because
I'm just glad-
no one fucks with Clint Eastwood. That's
Yeah.
why.
Sure. So it makes me think of those posts. I think Kev, you post about it sometimes, but those posts on Twitter where they're just like, "Look how Morgan Freeman looks now," and it's like, dude, he's fucking 84.
Old as hell, man. Like
Yeah.
he's old.
breaking news: old man looks old.
Like I remember there was a post about Gene Hackman, I think
Yeah. Yep.
over a year ago or something at like a gas station, and no one had seen him in like 10 years. He had like disappeared. And he was frail and like skinny, and I was like, oh my god, he looks so terrible. And I'm like, he's old as hell. Like, and now we all know that he had dementia and all this stuff. Like, just like let people live in peace, man.
It's the same way that people were commenting on how Chadwick Boseman looked so
After
skinny.
Chadwick, no one should say a word. And Dan's really good on that too, because everyone just talking shit about like Ariana Grande and stuff on the
Yeah.
Wicked tour. Just shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Just-
My point is just,
it's not
why
you.
why
Don't
does
matter.
anyone care?
Yeah. Yes.
Why does anyone care what fucking Gene Hackman looks like when he's
Ex-
aged? Why does it
exactly.
even news?
Exactly.
Like, oh, Gene Hackman was photographed. Yeah, he's just chilling with his wife for the last 10 years, just like living life.
Yeah.
Like just chilling. Like leave him alone.
Which that story is so sad. But
Yeah,
Dan,
dude,
would you ever find as to why people hate Nicole Kidman?
people don't like Nicole Kidman because she's in a lot of shit. And also, but people literally in my comments when I made that video were like, she got Botox. Who the fuck cares? Why does that make you not like her?
like 90% of women that age end up getting Botox probably.
He's a
So
fucking actor. Like, and also, go watch The Substance. Like the standards people are held to continue to be able to get role. Like,
Very true.
yeah, especially for women. Like once you hit a certain age, like
yeah,
they like essentially filter you out for just someone that's younger. That's why this, like you said, The Substance is so like it's so relevant because she was Demi Moore's character getting there up in age, and she's like, you're not working anymore, doing this jazzercising. You don't have that look that we're looking for anymore. Let's get market quality, so it's just.
and then ironically, she loses the Oscar to Mikey Madison.
Yes.
So point made,
Perfect bookend to that movie right there.
Yes,
The extended edition.
100%.
I was thinking about it though, just while we were talking about him, the actor in general, how good his comedy is. I would love a reboot of Caddyshack with Tim Robinson. I think that'd be really fucking funny. I mean, we talked about it. I mean, there's a lot of golfing movies, but I mean, maybe even a basketball movie. Tim Robinson, just put him in. Any. I think maybe after everyone sees him in Friendship, his career might change, and he might be like a leading man and be like the comedy person. I can
Hopefully
see
he
that
brings
happening.
comedies back because it's been grim, man. Fucking grim.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen you talk about that a good bit, Kevin. I think you're spot on. Like, and I think people don't know what to do, right? Because I think they feel like there's this like
Mm-hmm.
the world is more socially conscious and all, so you can't. But all that means is you can't do like lazy ass shit. Like just write like Friendship is not even like. And I'm not saying stuff shouldn't be, but it's not even like a vulgar movie. Like it's just funny.
Yeah.
Like it takes social situations that are funny and just amps them up for like a 10. You can find good humor. You just have to be a good writer. Like,
Well, I
it's
made a video the other day about like South Park, and it's like it's nuts that like South Park just continues doing what it's been doing for 27 seasons, and everyone says that you can't make things because it's too woke and people don't want like. But South Park is legitimately funny. Their satire is funny, and they've been able to get away with it because it's genuinely like smart. Like their writing is smart.
And
And I
they've like
feel like
wrote themselves out of controversy because people know what you're getting with South Park, so they can never really be too out of the box because that's what the show is. Like you said, it's so smart.
it's smart in its own way. So like it allows itself to go through any sort of change in social landscape. But my thing is too, I think Tim Robinson could be good because like if you look at every era of comedy, it always has like a group or like a person that kind of like ushers through a certain era. Like if you think about it, the '90s was what, you know, Jim Carrey, uh, Adam Sandler. Those were the guys that really carried the '90s. And then what, the 2000s, you had Will Ferrell, you had that whole group of
Vince Vaughn.
Paul Rudd, Seth Rogen, you know, all these guys that kind of just made movies together. And then 2010s, you kind of just like no one really took up the next mantle, and it just kind of like
They were still trying to use the same guys and just put them in stuff
correct.
that, like,
And no
wasn't
one
funny.
really
I was
wanted
gonna
to
say-
see those guys anymore. Yeah, it's kind of like, all right, you're kind of played out.
Yeah.
You need someone else. So maybe Tim Robinson will be the new guy that like. All
More in the
right.
2010s, people turned to Marvel for their comedy.
That is very true. Good
True.
point.
Yeah.
And
I also
I'm glad
think-
you brought him up, Kev. Sorry, I was just thinking about like Tim Robinson could be like the leading man possibly, but I think maybe the most impressive person in comedy in the last couple of years that isn't like maybe a Jerry Seinfeld who's been like society's changed and they don't like humor anymore is Seth Rogen has been so impressive. Have you guys been watching The Studio?
Very good. Yeah. It's very.
Let me convince Dan. You're caught up, Kev.
I haven't seen the newest episode, so don't.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay.
As long as there's not like a spoil, I don't really care. You can talk about it, but like, as long as there's not like a something like.
This will convince Dan to watch it. There's a focus at one point, a pretty strong focus on Steve Buscemi, and it's really, really funny. And Steve Buscemi's in it, so that might convince you to watch it. But that show is so cool to see someone who's so into comedy, but also the film industry in general and care about it, and being able to blend those so well. It really has impressed me so far.
I will say someone that does not get nearly enough credit for his writing is Seth Rogen. I think if you go back and look at his filmography, like he has written some of the, in my opinion, some of the greatest comedies we've had at least this century. And I don't think some of his stuff is smart too. Like a lot of people don't realize. I think he did The Studio also. He's reuniting with Evan Goldberg, who they both created Superbad. So like, I mean, I just don't think. I think I made a video where it was like, this was like a month ago. It was like, what was the characters? It was Jim Carrey. It was Will Ferrell, Seth Rogen, and then one more I forgot. But it was like you got to erase this guy's whole filmography, and you know, which three are you keeping essentially? And I got rid of Jim Carrey, and people were pissed. And I was like, because the two I was against was Jim Carrey and Seth Rogen, and I was like, I don't think people realize how much Seth Rogen has been a part of things. Like he's a part of a lot of things, whether he's a side character, whether he wrote it, whether he is a part of the main cast. Like his career is a lot better than people give him credit for, I think.
And erase Invincible. He's an Invincible.
Invincible, The Boys, like
Miller's Girl.
I think he's an intelligent person, like you said, like he can write. And I think I also wanted to say, Kev, when you were talking about South Park, like Always Sunny is the same thing. It's been on forever.
Yeah.
And like they like the show has evolved, but they still will do kind of whatever they want. I mean, like, you know, they did blackface. Like D was in black. Like people forget, like they do whatever they want. But what they do is you understand these characters are fucking morons. You're laughing at
that
them.
way. Yeah.
Like, and it's satire, and like it's not using whatever they're doing as a punchline. They are the punchline. Like
It's the Tropic Thunder effect. It's the whole like Tropic Thunder. People are like, you can't make Tropic Thunder today, but like people don't understand the point of the blackface Robert Downey Jr. character is that he is supposed to be so ingrained in like playing whatever character he needs to play that he literally morphs into that character. It's the whole thing is a satire against how ridiculous this character is. That's the whole point of it. So like,
And
people are
also,
like,
also the fact that the industry would cast a white man in blackface over just casting a fucking black actor, and the only
exactly,
black
that's the
actor
whole
they
point.
cast in the movie
That's
is
why
a
they put
rapper.
another black guy in the cast, because he's like, I think there's a point in the movie where literally he's like, I could have gotten your role. Instead, they gave me, like, that's the whole point. And people are just like, they just see a blackface character and like, well, you can't make this today. You can, because it was written well. Like, it was smart. Like, it wasn't just like
I think the sketchiest thing about Tropic Thunder is the Simple Jack stuff. I'm just
yes,
like, man. Which at the same time, there have been so many actors that have like pretended to have different, like, what's it, pretend, like, you know what I mean? Like in those
Yeah.
roles, like that's happened a lot when you go back and look. So I think they were trying to do the same thing, but like it's a tough look.
Oh, go look up on YouTube. You can find the full trailer of Simple Jack. Like not even the thing that they put in the movie. You can watch like the full trailer of it, and it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. Let's move on to the iconic film.
I was gonna say, speaking of Tropic Thunder, do you guys want to talk about a warm glass of shut the hell up?
Yes, please.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Yeah, we could get into Happy Gilmore, which is crazy because we talked to it, I think, before we got on. The fact that you guys have watched this movie so many times. You don't need to explain the plot. Everyone's watched Happy Gilmore. This was my first time.
What?
Oh damn.
Which is crazy. Yeah, they didn't know that either. It's just like one of those movies. I'm sure you guys each have one where it's an iconic film. You just will get around to it eventually. And like I've told you, Kev, and these guys know, I don't like comedies. Caddyshack, I found parts of it funny. It is a comedy, but I've always said if I don't think a movie is funny, I think it's a bad movie. Like if you're not making me laugh, like what is the point here?
100%.
So that might be why I was a little bit hesitant towards Happy Gilmore. Also, I've watched recent Adam Sandler movies. Not the best. And my wife loves Adam Sandler though. But yeah, this was really, really, really funny.
Welcome.
I really liked it. I did not know Ben Stiller's surprise was very funny. I will say probably what I just said, shut the hell up. Probably my favorite line in the movie, I will say. But everything with Bob Barker was really funny. Was not expecting that. I found out that in the trailer, that was like the number one selling point of this. Like they showed the Bob Barker fight in the trailer. Really good. But yeah, this just felt like a really good story. Everything with the hockey player. Like I've done a really good job when it comes to movies that I haven't seen before and not getting any spoilers. And I think I might have known about him being a hockey player and coming over to golfing, but I might have forgotten about that. I should have thought about it because I think I've seen images of him in a hockey jersey playing golf, so I should have connected the two. But it's good comedy. It's really good. It's funny. I want to present this to you guys because I listened to Roger Ebert's review of the movie, and he had two critiques about it. I want to know, with you guys loving this film, what do you think about it? One is Adam Sandler's aggressiveness and how angry of a person. Now you connect with it, Kev, you said, because that's how you play.
Yes.
They said it's kind of hard to get by a character that's so very ferociously mad all the time. But then also the product placement and the large amount of especially Subway in this movie, which I wasn't expecting.
He shoots it in the mouth.
Yeah. What do you guys think about? I'll present that to you, Kev. What do you think about those two aspects of the film? Like you connected with one of them.
I think the aggressiveness, I don't really understand the aggressiveness critique, because I mean that is the whole purpose of why he rubs, Shooter the wrong way and why he rubs some of the other golfers the wrong way, because he's not a golfer. Like golf is known to be, you keep your cool. It's very like, calm, and he's out there screaming obscenities and literally punching people in the face and, doing crazy things. And I think that is what makes the movie work. So I don't really understand that critique. The product placement, yeah, I get it. I mean, I get it. I mean, I find the commercial hilarious where he shoots the sub into someone's mouth, because it's showing that you got to remember he's trying to do everything he can to get his grandma's house back. So he's literally taking like even more ridiculous jobs to just make money. So obviously, if Subway's gonna hand you a commercial to get some more money, he's gonna do it. But I think this movie is a 5 out of 5. I think this movie is a near perfect comedy. We talked about dads and like movies that like this is a movie my dad showed me like we watched constantly together. I quote it with my wife all the time. You talked about Ben Stiller's character. I think this, even though he's barely in the movie, I think this is probably easily a top 10 Ben Stiller character that he's ever played. The my fingers hurt line is something that me and my wife say all the time. Oh, now your fingers hurt, and now you got landscaping duty, and like like that's literally like he's so good. The mustache, like everything about it, it's like you have theories made off this character that he was like the character from Heavyweights, and then this is the character now, and then he becomes White Goodman, and like like it's perfect. I think the dynamic between Shooter and Happy is perfect as well. Like the rivalry, the exchanges, like it's the best line. One of the best lines I think in comedy history is when he's like, I eat pieces of shit like you for breakfast, and then Shooter takes that like one pause after he says, you eat pieces of shit for breakfast, and he just like sits there and thinks about it, and he goes, no. Like that is one of the best like exchanges in comedy history. It's like it's perfect. So like I have no notes, like I have no critiques. Like I think from start to finish it's pretty great.
I was like, coming from me with the comedy not working, another part that I thought was really hilarious was when, and it's funny too, because I think that the audience might have caught on it as well when he originally said it. I can't remember the exact lines, but when Shooter like rhymes those two sentences together, and then all of a sudden Adam Sandler just does it. It's the exact same thing. Like Shooter looks at him, and just like,
100%.
Like gets just so frustrated.
Their comedic timing together is just, it's what makes the movie what it is. Honestly, it's perfect.
There's so many little elements of the movie. Like all the Bob Barker stuff is so funny, and that's also like it was a big part of how they marketed the movie. Like they put that out there, they were going to fight and this and that. Bob Barker took the role because he found out he was going to fight Adam Sandler. Like that to him was entertaining. Bob Barker is a black belt in karate, and he's a red belt in Tang Soo Do, which he trained under fucking Chuck Norris. Which Tang Soo Do is it's Korean. It's like part karate, like karate striking, and then like the defensive aspects of kung fu mixed together. But like he's like a fighter.
That's nuts. I didn't know that. That's nuts.
Yeah, he said like I don't think he had a stunt person. Like he was actually like in there with him. So really funny inclusion that I think they used really well for like as a marketing stunt, but also it's a great part of the movie too.
Yeah, it's a good way to do a cameo. Like you see throwaway cameos all the time. Like that was, like the part where he like thinks he goes, the price is wrong, bitch, and then like you'll find out like the TV lines, they'll change it to Bobby, but like, and then he'll just like he's just like laying there like just lifeless, and all of a sudden he just like pops up with those eyes. He's just eat the crap out of him.
I mean, like Carl Weathers too. Like he's so good in this, and like all that the alligator stuff is very funny to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Since Bob Barker has sadly passed on, does that mean like the new king of cameos, Channing Tatum, is going to fight Adam Sandler in number 2?
There definitely will be a cameo, that's for sure. Who knows who it'll be?
Cameos.
But we'll see who he fights. I think that's a good prediction, Connor. I definitely think that he will fight some famous person. We'll just have to wait and see who that is. Yeah. But it's funny that you mentioned Carl Weathers, Dan. You probably know this because it sounds like you did a little bit of research too. But I heard that Adam Sandler wrote the whole funny element of him losing his hand because he lost his hand in Predator. So that was an inside joke to the Predator, the fact that Carl Weathers' character lost his hand there too, which I thought was pretty funny for probably fans of that movie.
And like the way he dies, hilarious. Everything is
I was not expecting that. First time, I was like, what?
The alligator got your hand, but I got his head, and then he falls out the window, like, and you hear you hear the hand hit the floor, and it's like, like it's come on, man, it's like, it's just so great. Like that's why I'm terrified about Happy Gilmore 2, because it's probably going to be terrible.
Yeah.
If we go into it with that mindset, we might have a semi-good time.
That's what I say about work, man. I always tell people when I'm training people on my job, if you go in expecting the worst thing ever, it can more than likely only be better.
But my thing is like, okay, so here's my thinking on Happy Gilmore 2, but like, because I feel like we're just gonna sit here and glaze about Happy Gilmore. So like maybe we just talk about Happy Gilmore 2 for a second. So I feel like there's part of me that's like cautiously optimistic because it's like I feel like Adam Sandler has to know this is his baby. Like so many people beloved this movie. Like this is like a lot of people put this at number one as far as his best comedy. Like he has to know that, and like I hope he puts some sort of extra effort into making this one good and have a cohesive story and a good story and not just be like I feel like it's just gonna be like Grown Ups 2, and I made this video like a month or so ago. I was like, I feel like it's just gonna be like Grown Ups 2, where it's just like 30 cameos and like the comedy's not great and I don't know. A Netflix special, like you said, a Netflix comedy.
Yeah, it's funny because I think that's the thing that's over, like people are always thinking about when it comes to this movie is that it is going to be Netflix. And one thing I think that people could like point out too that possibly it won't be good is the fact that the director is Kyle Newacek, who I guess the only thing that he's directed of note really is Murder Mystery, which people may or may not like that movie. But you got to think that the first movie, Happy Gilmore, was directed by Dennis Dugan, who also made Jack and Jill. So sometimes, even though it is important to note who the directors of a movie is, sometimes the directors don't mean shit, and you can get like super lucky and have a good movie.
Sandler movie, I think Adam Sandler gets a lot of creative control. I don't think the director means crap. To be honest with you, like I don't think this guy. You think someone like of Adam Sandler's stature, and he's making a sequel to the beloved movie like Happy Gilmore, he's gonna be like, hey man, some director that's made Murder Mystery, you go for it. Like, nah, he's gonna have 99.9% creative control, and that guy's just gonna be there to make sure everything flows properly. Essentially,
that's a good call. I
don't think he's gonna have any sort of.
He's there to like control the extras.
Correct.
I will say, just looking at the cast for Happy Gilmore 2, what possibly the cameos could be. It looks like we're getting Margaret Qualley's in there, Eminem, Benny Safdie, and Kid Cudi, which I really like Kid Cudi when he's in films, so that could be really funny.
Right.
But
Speaking
that's what I'm
Eminem,
seeing so far.
He just became a grandpa.
Congrats, Eminem, if you're listening.
It's also the same writing team. Tim Hurley and Adam Sandler wrote the first one. They're writing the second one. So like,
okay,
that's something. It's so weird. Like watching the trailer, seeing Happy Gilmore with that like digital sheen.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like odd. I don't know.
Weird. Yeah, it feels
like,
weird.
And to be real, like the trailer to me just like didn't look great. Granted, a lot of trailers these days are just like cut really badly and just do a bad job in general. So with a grain of salt there, but I don't know.
Side note, Eminem. Talk about someone that has some of the greatest cameos in movies. Eminem, some great cameos. The Interview.
Eminem's pretty funny. Like he's a funny guy. Like,
he's a good actor too. Honestly, he's a pretty solid actor. I mean, I think I made a video about this a long time ago, but he like after 8 Mile, like he was in the running for like so many different acting jobs, and he just didn't like acting, and he didn't. I think it was like Elysium. He was supposed to. They were looking at him over Matt Damon.
Wow,
sounds interesting. But yeah, like, he just hated acting, so he just never pursued it.
He's like, I think 8 Mile like actually holds up. Like I think 8 Mile is a good movie.
I agree.
I think it's.
I like 8 Mile. That ending scene, iconic.
For the last 6 years, I've been in the top 0.05% of Eminem listeners on Spotify. So,
what's your favorite song,
dude?
What you got? Favorite track?
Or Haley's song.
Oh, gotcha.
Sing for the Moment or Haley's song.
Nice.
I will say something that was
something
that was a pleasant surprise. For what you talk about, Eminem?
Yeah, I said we'll see what he does in the movie.
Who do you love more, Eminem or Jake Gyllenhaal? This guy's a big old Jake Gyllenhaal fan, kid. Okay.
Who isn't a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal?
Wait, you said they almost cast Eminem over Jake Gyllenhaal in Southpaw?
Yeah, they wanted to.
Yeah, and Southpaw and Elysium were the two roles that he was like the clear cut, like they wanted him, but he just didn't want to act anymore. He's like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, he said he would help out with the soundtrack, which obviously he did. But
I also wanted to say quickly about the first movie. Christopher McDonald is such a good villain in this. I thought he was wonderful. That was almost Kevin Costner. And it's funny because he actually did. We talked about he did Tin Cup in '96 instead of this, which I don't know if he probably doesn't regret that. But
I
Christopher
love
McDonald's
Kevin
awesome.
Costner, but I don't see him in that role. Like
I saw.
maybe it's because it's just the way I see Christopher McDonald playing that role is just so iconic at this point. I just cannot see Kevin
I said.
Costner playing it as well.
I feel like he's more animated than Kevin Costner would have been.
I saw one other person that was almost cast that could have worked, and it was Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell could have been maybe really good at this. I can totally see him doing it.
Almost crazy enough though, he may have been like a little too over the top.
Possibly, very much
like,
so.
I feel like Christopher McDonald was good because he like was over the top, but he kind of like wasn't too much to where it became like almost like a satire.
Yeah.
You know, and he still felt like a real person. And I just feel like Bruce Campbell may have done it too much to like the 10th degree. He's
Yeah,
great.
obviously I didn't see it, but I don't know if Bruce Campbell could have hit like the pretentious, like off the golf course side as well as Christopher McDonald did.
I agree with that. Good call.
I also think like they took Adam Sandler talked about them taking a lot of inspiration from Caddyshack, so I think like it's the same kind of thing. We talked at the beginning about like the angriness of it. I think like humor is always in like contrast or like flipping what you expect on its head. So I think Caddyshack takes this like stuffy, stuck up place and then like interjects all this insane stuff. And then Happy Gilmore's doing the same thing with this character from the world of hockey. Hockey is like my sport. I played from the time I was a little kid. So like I loved it. I watched this when I was like very young, probably too young. And I just loved it from the first time I watched it. But also Adam Sandler took inspiration for Happy Gilmore from his friend who he knew, I think in high school, who like was a hockey player and then went into golf and was like a complete spaz. So like he was actually had some real life inspiration.
There you go.
The country club that I've worked at, we had this member who played for the Cincinnati Cyclones, which is like a minor league hockey team. And he would hit the ball like farther than anyone I have ever seen. The only issue is you had no idea where it was going. He is the funniest man to caddy for, though. He used to have us do laps on the course to run back to the beer coolers and would tip us at like 15 years old. Whoever won the caddy race with the beers would get a beer and we would shotgun with him.
That's awesome.
Nice. That's fun. Golf can be fun. Look at that. That's cool. That's cool. You said that, Dan. Is the fact that you're not a big golf guy, but the fact that you like hockey was kind of like your way into this movie. That's kind of cool that you can combine two sports and you can get hockey fans and golf fans to watch this movie. I think that's really smart.
Yeah, and hockey. I mean, golf is huge in hockey. Like a lot of hockey players golf.
Not you.
So it's not me.
One of the last things I'll say on the movie is, it's iconic when like everyone has gone out to a golf course at some point and has tried to do the Happy Gilmore swing. Like whether you're at a Top Golf, whether you're at a whatever, like everyone's trying to do that swing, and that's how this movie is just simply it's stand the test of time. People still do it. Like I do it when I go to a Top Golf. I'm like, let me see how far I can hit it doing the Happy Gilmore swing.
Dude,
so
I said I don't drink on the golf course. It's a whole different thing if it's a golf outing. Then I'm, chugging margaritas all day. And 2 years ago, I was in a golf outing and did the Happy Gilmore swing on our final hole, which was, I think, 460 yards straight uphill. And longest drive of my life by far, like 340 yards. But I also snapped my driver head and it landed in the creek in front of me.
Oh my God.
Damn.
All right, Connor. I have another question. So I got to take my right wrist and I have to turn it left, right?
Yeah.
I also have this problem where my ball goes like super high instead of going far. How do I get it to go far?
Use a shorter tee.
A shorter tee. You mean like a tee, like where you put the golf club?
Yeah.
You can't do that at Top Golf though.
They don't know different tee sizes at Top Golf?
I don't think so, unless you can push it down. They already have like a tee there. You just put the ball on the tee.
You might be able to take like a half a step back from the ball because then you're going to swing like more fluid through it instead of like trying to lift it. And then also put the ball in the front of your stance.
I'm about to look up right now what the closest Top Golf is to me and like report back to you guys tonight.
Dude, for like 2 years now, I've had $100 gift card to Top Golf and I've never been to a Top Golf.
It's fun. It's expensive. It's like maybe like $40, $50, $60 an hour, depending on the day. But it's fun if you go with like friends. Like if you have like 4 people, I don't know how many people can go to a bay. Like 4 or 5 people split that check amongst 5 people. It's pretty good. The best thing to do though is you like scan your golf club at this like little sensor and it like pops out golf balls. So the funny thing is to do like with 2 seconds left on the clock of your time there is you just go nuts with that. You can spit out as many golf balls as you want. So you can like extend your time and like spit out 30 golf balls. Now I'm pretty sure the staff probably doesn't like that, but I like that as the consumer. So I'm trying to have a good time. Beat the system. I saw that Dude Perfect was trying to do the same thing like with Topgolf, but like try to combine all sports. Like they were going to open something like that. That'd be interesting. I would love to go to something like that, but
we have a baseball one like that by me.
That's dope.
Yeah, somewhere you can shoot like, obviously, in the green, basketball. I don't know how they do a football thing, but it'd be interesting to have like
the
a
old
whole
like
thing like
quarterback arcade game and like
Yeah.
put like 3 holes in different points values.
That's just a lot of money to open something like that. It'd be cool though.
Yeah.
So I would say, Kev, 5 stars for you. I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt you, Connor. I don't know. Do both of you guys see any flaws in this movie? Like 5 stars for you as well, Connor?
I don't have it at a 5-star. Merely just, I mean, I enjoy the movie a lot. It's just one of those like I've seen it so many times. I don't feel the need to keep going back and rewatching it. I don't think I love it as much as the rest of you guys. What's funny though, 2 final thoughts on it is one, the first time I ever heard of and watched this movie was with my older brother because he had watched it at a friend's house. And the only thing he came home and told me about the movie was the fact that he just stands in a batting cage and lets the balls hit him.
Yes.
That's so funny.
It was the only thing he told me about the movie.
I will. Okay, just coming from my first time watching, the fact when they're walking away and you could hear that kid go, "Ugh," and he gets hit with the ball. That was a really good joke.
So we used to have like I played baseball like my whole life growing up, and like the kids would try to do that. They would watch that movie and then go in there and be like, I'd be like, no, kid, you're gonna hurt yourself. Like literally, like kids would go in and try to do that. Like teammates of mine. Like,
yeah.
Smart.
And then 2, I wish we got more Ben Stiller villains because I think he does phenomenal in his villain roles. Like this in Dodgeball,
Really does.
We're getting him in the second one, so we'll see.
Yeah,
maybe Severance Ben Stiller might bring a new level of comedy.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are going into Happy Gilmore 2 expecting a masterpiece.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Might be pleasantly surprised. Dan, what do you have this rated as?
4 stars.
4 stars. Okay.
That's right. 2 on the 4.
You gotta remember, this is a hockey guy right here.
No, like I love it. It's like fucking silly. I don't know. It's not. I don't think it's the best movie, but like, like I said, I didn't rewatch it for this. I will rewatch it and maybe get a new score going.
There we go. There we go.
Now I will say it's so funny that watching these 2 films and then going to The Legend of Bagger Vance is a very, very big tonal shift.
Very different. And I love this. Are we officially moving on to it?
We can move on to it, yeah.
So I had not seen this movie in so long, but like there were certain points where I was like, man, I remember this. Like I remember this scene. I remember this moment. Like also like the cast is just so good. I think that's what kind of like sets this movie apart from like the other movies that we've talked about. Like the characters, the acting really carries this movie. Especially stand out is just Will Smith. People forget like Will Smith is so damn good. Like he is so good, and I feel like with what happened with the slap and everything, it's kind of like overshadowed all that stuff and everything, and people forget this man is like genuinely like one of the best actors of this past 20 to 25 years, and he really showed it in this role. I kind of forgot that it was like a period piece set in that time period, like the war. I kind of forgot those aspects of it, but I thought it worked well. Let me know what you guys thought.
Well, it's funny that you said a period piece, so I didn't know this watching this movie, but the fact that, because I'm not obviously a hockey fan, the fact that Walter Hagen and Bobby Jones were like real golfers, So I was like, cool. Like, is it is it them who play the or is it them in the movie? I forgot that it's a period piece. So like,
Yeah.
Dan's like, yeah, they're 150 years old. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
playing the
quite
movie.
old.
Yeah, Walter Hagen was born in like 1879 or something.
But
I love
Dan,
them
I know
all for
that
race but
this is like a movie that Dan has praised for a long time. I feel like you like obviously talking about underseen movies, and this is like one of them. On my list that I saw top 10 golfing movies, this is number 10. So it does have some recognition, but only 34,000 people have logged this on Letterboxd. So not a lot of people have seen it, but like, and you know, you've talked about it before, but I feel like you have a lot of thoughts on this film.
Yeah. It's another movie I feel like I watched relatively young. Um, First of all, like Kev said, I mean the cast is preposterously good. I think Matt Damon. I think this is one of Matt Damon's better performances. Um, Charlize Theron, like she's such a good actor, and like they wrote this role like literally just for her. And I feel like Adele's character, um, is a great character. Like I feel like she's a very like strong and capable character, but also has like vulnerability to her, and also has like their relationship, their dynamic, I think is really, really good. And I think the romance has to sell in this for you to have any kind of investment. Um, but at the same time, just the concept of like, you know, the Great Depression is going on. She essentially has this course dumped on her. That's like her father's legacy and has to just figure it out. You know, after he takes his own life is pretty heavy. And then the tournament she's able to put together. I just think like first of all, I think World War One is under talked about in media. I think
100%.
there aren't enough films about it, and I think people don't quite understand how awful
Gruesome.
that war actually
It was
was.
gruesome. Yeah,
And I
gruesome.
think um Paths of Glory is one of my favorite Kubrick movies, and it's very simple, but like it deals with. I mean, you essentially had like these generals that had fought in these European wars from like in the late 19th century with all these new weapons and all this new technology, but they were still fighting like they had swords and spears, and like they still were fighting in 19th century warfare, and it just created like these horrible battles where no one had any idea what they were doing leadership wise, and people were just being slaughtered. But anyway, I just think that war is not talked about enough, and also I think PTSD and what that does to people is not talked about enough, and the concept of someone who had this beautiful romance, he had this incredible gift in with a game of golf, going to war and essentially becoming a different person and coming back and being so dissociated that he's not even able to connect with any aspect of his life or his home. He's just like a ghost. And just kind of like existing. I think it's really powerful, and I think those kind of stories aren't told enough. I think, you know, PTSD is really rough. I mean, my dad dealt with that for about a decade when I was growing up. So I think seeing it in film is always nice because like I just think again it's not I said it's not talked about enough. But anyway, the way Will Smith kind of comes into this movie, like literally coming out of the dark, like
Thank you. Yes.
it's special. I think I'll get right to the criticism. This is like the magical Negro movie of all time. Like Spike Lee has destroyed it. A lot of people have, and I completely understand that. I don't view The Legend of Bagger Vance as if it's in reality. Like this is not a story about like the South or like about that time. This is mythology. This is like
Mm-hmm.
a parable. Like, and it's something I actually didn't know before. This is an adaptation of a Hindu mythology. It's from the Bhagavad Gita. Um, Will Smith is essentially Krishna, who is a Hindu god. That's who he is. That's who he's portraying here. Krishna appears to Arjuna, who's like a warrior, who's essentially having all this self doubt, and he appears to him as a his chariot driver in that story, and basically helps him like get back in touch with who he is, and then he goes on this journey. That's a really long story, but that's what this is a retelling of. Um, so I think when you look at this character who is completely detached from reality, like, and he's literally a god. I also think when you look at like the magical Negro trope, like one of the main elements of that is like patience and just being like, oh, whatever the white character needs, like spoon feed him and just like that's not what this is. He's almost mocking him,
Mm-hmm.
and almost like he's like picking at him almost the entire time, because he sees like his, obviously he went through a lot, but he sees his self-pity. He sees the way he is refusing to like engage with his life or do anything, and he's almost like mocking him, even to the point when Matt Damon's kind of self-destructing in that one round where he just keeps hitting the ball into the water, and he's like, yeah man, go ahead, like keep doing it, and then you can just go home and just do
Mm-hmm.
nothing, and like you can just forget, stop trying. Like, it's not about him like babying him. And I just think like I think I understand the criticism, but like this is not a movie about like the racial dynamics of the South.
No.
That's not what it is. And I understand the concern, but I think when you stop treating this like it's not supernatural and not mythology, it's easier to connect with it and understand what's happening.
I like that point that you brought up about like that same scene where he's like, "Go ahead, pull it off in out of bounds, so that way we can, you're so far away, we can just stop." And he before that whole dialogue, Matt Damon's character goes, "Man, this has been an embarrassment," and he goes, "You're a long way away from embarrassment. It's been pretty much embarrassing this entire time."
Yeah.
And like just little jabs like that throughout the film, like Will Smith is so good. Like he just has these little moments where he's like you said, this character's having self-pity, and he's pretty much telling him like, you want to quit? And he asks him that. He's after he shanks it, he's like, "You want to quit?" And he's like, "No, I don't want to quit." So he's essentially like, there's this fun dynamic between them where like he knows, Matt Damon's character, like he wants to get back to the person he was before, but he never will. Like he's got to find his new way of dealing with what he dealt with in the war and become a new golfer, become a new man. That's why like when he shows up out of the darkness, which another jab that he had was he goes, how, like he says like, "I could have hit you," and he's like, "Well, I kind of stood right in the middle of you because I knew with the way you were shanking everything to right and left, you weren't going to hit me." So like the relationship started off with a jab and with those like, "Hey, stop feeling self-pity for yourself. Let's go. Let's get to work." And the first thing he says to him when he starts working with him in his swing in the dark, he says like, "We need to find your authentic swing, your new swing. You're not going to have what you had before. We need to find who you are now," because he sees this man that's like, he's beaten down, like you said, dealing with PTSD. Like, that's find this new person. And like you said, you almost feel like Bagger Vance is like you said, he's like almost like a spirit. Like he's kind of like there to guide him in a way. And it's nothing about, I don't know, it's just cool how they mix their dynamic together. And I did love certain moments where you got like the town is coming together, and then they find out he's getting close to tying, or he had the hole in one, and everyone's, they're all getting their shave and their haircut, and they're all coming out and they're all running to the golf course because they want to be a part of like history. And so it's fun. Like you have a good mixture of, like this period piece, like you're talking about, where like you have these moments, but then the dynamic between the two characters are just so fantastic. Charlize is great. There's good banter between her and Matt Damon's character as well. Like the whole scene too, where she shows up at his house and she pretty much bargains with him that she's gonna sleep with him if he plays, and then the kid's there, and he's like, "Wow, this," it's just, there's so many good moments in this film that I could point to for sure. I will say my one critique: I'm not a big stickler for like length of movies, but there are moments where the movie kind of, for me, dragged a little bit. I feel like they could have cut out a little bit of the golfing scenes. Like there were scenes where like you didn't need to see as much. Maybe hit on the key, like the hole in one would have been cool, and like things like that. And just have more of the dynamic between Will Smith's character and Matt Damon's character, honestly.
Yeah, I will say it was interesting going from those two movies that we've previously talked about to this, because as the movie was going on, I was realizing more and more what it was about. Like the more Will Smith and Matt Damon talk, I was like, oh, this is like getting really real here.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know what Will Smith was at first. I was like, it's kind of strange how he just came from, the bushes there. It just pops out. And I was like, is he a ghost, or like people can see him, like the kid can see him, so he's not a ghost. And obviously you see him at the very end there. But yeah, because for me, it's really cool to see the contrast between, you're playing this game in life, but also the fact that his name is interesting. Ranulph Juna?
Randolph.
Is it
Jr.
Randolph?
Yeah.
Okay. They must have spelled it wrong, because I have it Rannulph.
No, that's his name.
Is it? Yeah. Ranulph.
Yeah,
I don't know,
it's
whatever.
just like a southern, it's a Savannahization of Randolph. It's like,
Okay. I got you. I'm not naming my kid that. But it's the fact that like it's cool because he's talking about how to play the game, but it's also like, are you going to give up on life? Like I see this as Matt Damon possibly almost killing himself, drinking himself to death, and Bagger Vance comes in just in time and is like coaching him. Not only like you can excel in this game the same way you can excel in life. It's just like breathing, taking it all in, taking it one step at a time, seeing where you're going, forgetting about the noise. Like those scenes where everything fades and the camera, it's like a dolly zoom it does with the field. It looks really nice. Really impressive stuff. All the monologuing.
Where he just keeps hearing the same thing over and over again for like 10 seconds, and it just kind of like everything around him kind of stops. Like that, those were really cool scenes. Yeah.
So good. One thing I will say that I wish they would have harped on more, but it might have been way too depressing, is this is during the Great Depression. And they do hint at it a little bit with Hardy Greaves' father, the fact that he's like sweeping the streets. And I don't really know why maybe I missed it, why he hates his dad so much. He's like kind of hard on him.
he's embarrassed.
He's just embarrassed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
his dad has a good job and everyone kind of makes fun of him. And, yeah.
Okay. I love how Bagger Vance is like, dude, chill out. Like nobody has a job right now. Oh no, it's Matt Damon who's like,
Yeah.
Your dad's trying. I will say all of the people in Savannah who are like, let's go Juna kind of thing, they don't look like they're struggling that much for the Great Depression. They're getting a shave. They're just having a good time. It's really only focused on his father. So I feel like Savannah is really a big part of this movie, and I wish they would have incorporated it. I don't know, you would have felt it a little bit more. It kind of feels like a backdrop to whatever Matt Damon and Will Smith are talking about, what that character is going through. So that is one thing I'll say about it. Charlize Theron, this might be a hot take, I don't think her accent is very good. That's the only one. There's a lot of accents in this movie. For me, Charlize was just not working. But besides that, I thought everyone was really good. I was shocked to find this out. I mean, me and Dan talk about it a lot. I mean, Connor too. But the fact that how much do you critique child actors? It's like, oh, he's a kid. He's not that good of an actor.
Great.
That's what I was about to say. I think this kid is phenomenal. I think he's so good.
You
and
know
just
what
looking
might
at
help with that? Is that this is his only acting credit, but he was
I was
born
about to
and
say
raised in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I was about to say he's really good in this, and it's crazy that this is the only acting that he has or probably will ever do.
And one thing I do like about the story is essentially the whole story is told through this little kid. Like the legend he heard from his father growing up, and then now all of a sudden, Juna comes pretty much out of nowhere. It's almost like a ghost to this kid. It's like, wow, he's back. And like it kind of adds to the magical factor of like kind of a sports movie, because like as kids growing up, you idolize these people, you idolize these sports icons or whatever you want to call it, actors, whatever, public figures. And now you see this person in the flesh, and then this kid's dealing with the fact that he has this like moniker and this like thought of how he sees Juna through these newspaper clippings and everything. And then he finally interacts with him and sees, okay, maybe he's not the person initially. He's like, maybe he's not the person that I thought he was, because he goes to his house. He's saying, I'm not going to play. I don't want to play. And then the kid finally can see him start to become the new Juna that, he's read about and seen about. And it's kind of cool to watch it through the kid's eyes, see what he's always heard finally come to fruition. Which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an important lesson for kids, right? Like, because I think exactly what you said, you have this idealized, it's like don't meet your heroes, whatever. You have this idealized version of someone, and then you hear a story about them, or you maybe you meet them, have a bad experience, and it's like that entire dynamic shifts. And I think it's interesting because that's happening with Juna, but it's also happening with his dad. And I think he has this like we all have this idea of our dad as a kid where like they're pretty much Superman, like they can do no wrong, etc. And then his viewpoint of his dad kind of shifts as well. And I did feel like that storyline was a decent way to like tie in the depression and tie in like some of that stuff that was going on. Could you have cut that out? Probably, maybe.
Yeah.
But I thought it worked, and I think, like you guys said, this kid, his name was J. Michael
Moncrief.
Yeah. My only thought is he didn't want to keep acting. That is my only thought. Like he is wonderful in this, and like it's a lot of pressure on him. He has to portray a lot of different emotion. I also just think I think the script is really good. I think there's a lot of like banter. I think it's very witty, and like even the scene when he goes and finds Randolph in that house, like they're back and forth, and then he's talking about like drinking and like how drunk is drunk enough, and like that scene I think is excellent. And I think there's so many little scenes of dialogue that are just brilliant. And like Matt Damon gets a scene with Bobby Jones, and he gets a scene with Walter Hagen, and and it's funny because they do the same thing with Adele. She approaches them each very differently in regards to how to get them into the tournament. Like she plays on Bobby Jones's like kind of ego, and she's very like classy and put together and like talking to him and his wife. Then with Walter Hagen, she's kind of like hitting on him and like basically saying like to be all these women there, etc. So like again, I think she's a great character, but the two conversations between Randolph and the two golfers, I think, are really interesting at kind of peeling them back to. So yeah, I think it's really well written. Um, I just think it's a great movie, and it bums me out the reception that it gets because I think a lot of people just don't watch it because everyone thinks it's bad or everyone thinks it's.
Yeah, I just saw the Rotten
it's
Tomatoes. I just looked at the Rotten Tomatoes score because I was kind of curious, and obviously, it's whatever, screw Rotten Tomatoes, anyways. But like 41%, like so, like more 60% of critics didn't like this movie. I just don't get it. Like one guy literally gave it like an F, and just said, "Sit this one out, please." Like I just don't understand how no one can find any enjoyment out of this movie. Like I don't really understand it. Like it is a little bit of, for a sports movie, it's a slow burn. Like it's not like you're like, but like Dan said, the dialogue is so good, screenplay is so good that like it keeps you enthralled throughout because of these characters and their banter and everything that's going on, to where the climax towards the end makes everything so worth it. I do like how he had a conversation with Bobby Jones, like when he starts making a comeback, and it was one of my favorite parts of the movie because Bobby's like, "Yeah, this could be my last match," and they have fun little banter about how like he makes kind of a remark that like I'm not going to let you win just because it's your last match. It's like I wouldn't want it that way, but I'm not going to lose my last match. And he talks about too, like I got a law practice and I got a lot of practice I got to get to in kids. And a lot of people don't realize, like, I find that so interesting when they interject it into sports movies during this time period. And not even during this time period, but the 50s and the 60s and whatever. Until most recently, I saw a baseball movie. It's called 61. I recommend it highly if you have not seen it. It's about Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris's home run race. Like, most of these guys, like, they didn't do this as their like full-time job. Like they did it because it was a passion and they liked it and it was fun and they made some money off of it. But a lot of times, whenever the tournaments were over or whenever the tournaments weren't happening, they were working in factories. They were doing all sorts of things. It was the same thing during like the Babe Ruth era, where like all these guys played in season and then out of season they would have other jobs. Worked in steel mills or factories or whatever. So I thought that was an interesting aspect. He's like, "You're in your prime. Why would you give this up?" He's like, "Well, I got two young kids and I got a law practice. I gotta, get up and running." So it's just kind of like a cool little kind of like tidbit. Like a lot of people don't realize is these guys were great athletes, but they weren't really like, it wasn't like their sole purpose in life.
Yeah.
Everything.
I was gonna say, Kev, like Stone was telling you, I'm pretty like nitpicky on the accuracies of things if it's something I have knowledge on. So it's funny we brought up the poker scene where he's like, "How drunk is drunk enough?" Because when Hardy is trying to convince him to play, one of the comments he makes is, you once borrowed a lefty's club because you couldn't use your righty clubs with the position with the trees. He's like, and you hit it within 6 inches. And that like put a red flag in my brain because it's illegal to borrow someone else's clubs in a golf match. And I looked it up. And during this time, it was not illegal to do that.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
That is cool.
Yeah, that comment. Funny enough, I was in a golf match in high school and I was over under a tree. And in my backswing, I hit the branch and then I chipped it up on the green, like within like 2 feet. So I was pretty proud of myself. Funny enough, there was a hornet's nest on the branch that I hit. And ever since I got stung 4 times, I don't have a feeling on the top of my head, but I did have to use someone else's clubs to finish out that match.
So were you disqualified?
No,
Or they gave you a pass because the Hornets?
Yeah, I got a pass because I had to leave my golf bag there for like 2 weeks till they got an exterminator out there.
Jeez, nice.
And then with that too, later on, I think it's the third match they play where it's super windy. There's a scene where Bagger Vance tells him to put the ball in the back of his stance, which is like 100% accurate on a windy day because it allows for a lower ball flight and just more roll. And so like I just loved all of that in this movie.
I think this movie is very interesting because it is supernatural, as we all know, The Legend of Bagger Vance, but there are some realism approaches to it because the fact that Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen are real golfers or were real golfers. So, but I think what that really adds to the story is more than any of the other films that we've watched, this feels like a movie that really loves the sport and is really serious, obviously, because the other ones are comedies. But I think because these are two real golfers, it allows them to not be like villainized. They're not really portrayed in that way, which I thought was really refreshing. Because you could just make them, oh, these guys are competing. I mean, they're competitive, but that doesn't necessarily always mean you're a bad guy if you're competitive. And I do like the moment where they're talking about how they can excel in the sport in different ways. Like they're talking about, I think it's Walter Hagen. Like he's not 100% the best golfer all the time. He has like 3 bad strokes, but then it only takes 1 lucky stroke to put him back in the race. And I love that scene with Bobby Jones and Hagen. The more conversations you get with them, you realize that they're never mean to Juna. They never really make fun of him, more so like the crowd does, or maybe like the journalists or people like that. They're really like, hey man, you got this. And they're really encouraging him the entire time. And that's just something I wasn't expecting. And I really liked that. That's one of the things that stood out to me the most about this film.
Well, it ties into like Juna and Hardy's conversation in the locker room about how like golf is kind of like a sport of like, the honor system and being a gentleman and like being just truthful about everything, which I think plays in really well at the end when Juna is moving the like stick out of the way of his ball and it rolls like 2 inches. And even, Hardy's like, yeah, I won't say anything, I swear. And he's like, we'll both know.
Yeah, that's another great lesson again for a kid, like to understand, like it's just about doing the right thing. And I think I also wanted to say quickly, this was shot. The movie looks great. It's Michael Ballhaus who shot fucking Goodfellas and shot After Hours. Like he's Martin Scorsese's cinematographer. He shot The Departed. Like I think it looks great. I think there's a lot of shots that stick in your mind. Even like little stuff like when Adele wakes up and all the guys are standing there fucking staring at her and it's blurry and it comes into focus and she's like, oh, I've died and gone to hell. But the one shot that sticks in my mind, what they did was they show you a little bit of World War I when his entire unit or whatever dies. And they have that shot of the trees and looking out through the forest. It's this they shot that I think in the same exact spot as where they are later in the movie. Because it's the same space through the trees that when he has that like I think he kind of has a flashback and has a panic attack on that hole. And it's literally in the same exact spot. I thought that was really powerful. Also, I just think the score. This is like one of the most under talked about scores of all time. It's like I think it's beautiful music.
Very good score.
Yeah.
That was Rachel Portman.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say is this movie might have given me one of my like favorite movie quotes though. And it's at like the very end when we go back to Hardy as an old man playing golf. and he says, "I play for the moments yet to come." That is beautiful.
It's funny you mentioned that because that's kind of what I wanted to speak about is the fact that Kev mentioned it a little bit. It's when these two guys need Bagger Vance, right? Juna and Hardy both need him at different times in their lives. And the fact that I think Juna kind of is Hardy's Bagger Vance for the majority of his life, right? Because Juna is trying to find purpose, find a reason to keep on striving, to keep on living. And Bagger helps him find that. But Hardy necessarily, I feel like all of us in life try to search for something like that, and we get it from different areas. I think Hardy found that in Juna, and Juna found that in Bagger. So it's cool that you can have that kind of, domino effect when it comes to that. I also think it's very interesting the fact that when, Bagger Vance pops up in Hardy's life, it's when he essentially, I think, passes on to the next life because he's had 5 heart attacks and he's walking up and you see on the horizon, you see Bagger and it's like, oh, it's just a time. In my opinion, it was his like time to go possibly. And I think that that's really powerful. But I think the fact that you see Bagger Vance so little, even Bagger and Hardy do talk, but it's more so always about Juna. Like I think Hardy and the influence that Juna, you talked about that conversation in the locker room or the conversation that he had with Hardy, just what the purpose of golf is, what it means to him, like what's so powerful about the sport. I don't know. I think how they utilize Bagger with it being called the Legend of Bagger Vance, I was surprised by how much I thought he would get more characterization, but the fact that he's basically like a spirit, right? He's not really a character. He's there for when you need him to be and tell you things about yourself that you kind of already know. You just need a reminding.
Yeah, it's kind of like Field of Dreams in that regard.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you guys having me on. I gotta head off, but
You're good, brother.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
You're good. You're good. Appreciate you joining, man. You can just log off. You're good.
Oh, you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
You want to plug yourself real quick? Plug yourself, my guy.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on again. If you don't follow me, I am Movie Review Man on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, I guess. But I appreciate this, guys. I had a great time. Please have me on again.
Absolutely.
This was awesome, and I appreciate you guys so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this
We'll do
Tuesday, by the way.
Tuesday.
Oh, perfect. I'll keep an eye out. I'll plug it all over.
Sweet.
Thank
Thank
you.
Appreciate it, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Yeah, what do you guys? We've talked about it for a long time. Like Dan, I saw that you have this rated as a 5-star. You just rewatched it too. It's cool. I love when we can rate stuff that's not the common ranking. Like you said, I think people do shallowly look at this film and look at the fact that it's a colored man helping a white man, and that's all they take from it. Don't think that there's a lot more nuance to that. Just when you talk about those two characteristics of a story, what's the context of that rather than just looking at it on the surface. But Connor, what did you have this ranked as or rated as?
I texted Dan last night and I told him this might be one of the easiest first time watch 5 out of 5s I've ever given.
Damn. Dan's like, sounds good.
Well, like I already was enjoying the movie, but the fact that like they got all of this accurate, like where to have the ball in your stance, how to keep it under the wind, the direction of the putt, and how the golf course can change from the morning and afternoon, it spoke to my inner golfer.
This is undoubtedly too. I just wanted to say, like, undoubtedly nostalgic for me. I've watched this from the time I grew up with my family and all. Definitely, I guess biased in a way, but I just think when you look at like the performances, the story, the dialogue, the cinematography, the music, like I think it's a really, really good movie. And I think again, the main critique is what I spoke on. But like when you read about this is based off a book. When you read about the guy who wrote the book, he literally just said, I enjoy this Hindu mythology. I don't know how to introduce this to Americans. So I'm going to tell it in this story. That's what it is. So I think like to ignore that is almost like kind of disrespectful to the myth itself. But anyway, I just think definitely, I guess, a biased rating for me, but it's just, I also think it's really well made and well acted. So yeah,
to me, obviously you can't ignore it, but it doesn't necessarily, Will Smith's character could have been white, could have been anything, but it doesn't matter because he's not a real human. Like you said, this isn't an actually portrayal of black men in the South. So I think the fact that it also is a period piece, like I think people focus on that as well, but that's not what it's trying to do. But for me, I'm probably have this at a 4 star just because you mentioned it. I don't necessarily love the relationship per se between Charlize Theron and Matt Damon. I think it's very strange that he goes to World War I, and then they don't say he died; they say he disappeared. And to me, first of all, she doesn't really seem too emotional about that at all, even though they were together. You barely see it at all. But he's back, and then the, when they, I don't really feel chemistry between the two, and it doesn't have a whole lot of time, in my opinion, the time that they should have had focusing on the two. But there's also bigger things that are more of an issue in Matt Damon's life, I think, than his romance that they should have focused on Juna's life. So I guess that makes sense. It's just with her accent and the character, that's the one thing holding me back in this, to be fair. And then also the fact that they don't really focus on why she's doing this in the first place. They kind of say it at the beginning, but she's trying essentially to keep this golf course and raise money for it. And that's kind of a backdrop, something in the background this entire movie, but is never really focused on again. This is her
Well, I think the
livelihood.
idea
This
is like if she's able to get them, the tournament will be successful because people will come and pay to watch. So I feel like once they actually are like the crux of that is getting them to actually come, and then it sells itself.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that kind of goes
I
out the
also-
window because once she's successful at getting them all there, it just
Yeah,
doesn't matter
that's-
anymore
that's the
because
part
that's what
that
she
was
tried
like-
to do.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
which I also think goes back to what you said earlier, Stone, too, is about like it doesn't feel like the Great Depression is really going on because all these people are running there. At that time, and even now, really, like not a lot of people who would be affected by a recession are going to a golf match.
They're just having a
Really.
good time, man. Juna's
Which-
caught up after 18 strokes down.
Which
Or
I
12
agree
strokes
with,
down.
but that's probably why it didn't feel so much like the Great Depression era for you. It's just because
Yeah.
like that group of people probably aren't going. It's going to be the upper class that goes and watches golf matches a good amount of the time. Even
It's like
today,
it's not gonna be the Happy Gilmore crowd.
yeah, you're not going to have someone in the back going, "You suck, you jackass."
that guy's character struggling during the Great Depression, unfortunately.
Dude,
But
I think
that
honestly,
was
my
good.
like one critique I wrote down of this is the fact that Bobby Jones, like, there's a whole scene where we focus on his pre-swing routine, watching him get in focus, and like I know golfers like that, and there's golfers like that in every aspect of golf. He would not have just skipped over his practice swings on the final tee shot. That was my only critique.
Well, I don't think that was the focus. That's the thing. You're talking about the fact that they didn't focus on his practice swings during the final shot.
Yeah, like the final hole where like
you
they
don't
have the
see him
cars
do it.
come up and like
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to see him do it though. That's the thing is he probably did it, obviously. But I do that you're mentioning that. I do really like the cuts they do there or the editing they do because you see Bobby Jones hit it and it cuts to Matt Damon, and then right away you see Hagen hit it and it cuts to Matt Damon. It's really quick editing. Like they could have like prolonged that, but I like that it's fast. But I get what you're saying though. I will say I really like that scene when they're focusing on like I said, they're focusing on the other players' love for the sport, and they're just so passionate about it. Bagger Vance is just like, this is what it's all about. See, this guy is thriving, and see why it's working for him. That's what I want for you. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting this out of this movie at all. Robert Redford too, by the way, made some very good films.
Oh, damn, we didn't talk about it.
Yes.
This was a big point. It was supposed to be Robert Redford and Morgan Freeman. And then they kind of had a conversation where like this should be younger people. So
I respect that. Well, he was going to direct it the entire time and wanted to do himself in it. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. But yeah, I also agree. You said at the very beginning, but I think that Matt Damon's very good in this movie. I was surprised, especially those scenes at the very beginning where he's sitting in the house by himself and he's just like fed up with Charlize Theron. He's like, "Why are you here? Like, what are we doing right now?" And
Yeah.
I really believed, his PTSD and his emotion there and just being completely done with it all. Really, really powerful stuff. I mean, this was not too long after Good Will Hunting, right? Good Will Hunting came out in
97.
97. Yeah. So
yes, was 2000.
yeah, good stuff. This was not the movie though that didn't allow Will Smith to be in The Matrix, right? That was the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that was
very
also a
good.
choice by Will.
Huge, massive bomb, though, sadly.
Yeah, 2.2 on Letterboxd. I glanced at it real quick. Thanks.
It's not 2.2. That's
Wild
your.
Wild West?
Oh,
You're talking about this
meant,
movie.
I think you meant this, yeah.
My bad.
This
3.1.
is
3.1.
2.2?
Yep.
See, that's one where I'd be like, that's a fun movie. It's goofy. Like, what are we doing? I don't know.
Got to make the video, man. Got to tell the masses.
Speaking of fun movies, Daniel, you got a recommendation for us?
Oh man, I was gonna say, speaking of the masses. Oh, you dropped a Daniel. My gosh, where are we going to class?
Do I have a
Hey,
recommendation?
I only dropped a Daniel after I found out my name in Dan's phone is Connor Podcast.
Nice. That's good.
Bro, it's
I think
been
I
like
have.
that literally since the day I met you. I'm sorry. I ever change names. I did change the spelling though, so
What's mine? What's mine? Is mine Stone Podcast? I'm only one
I
Stone,
feel like
so
it's
you
just
probably
Stone. I don't know.
okay.
Yeah, you're just stoned. My wife's
Sorry.
name in my phone is Corn Dog.
If it makes you
Okay.
feel better, a lot of people I just don't even put their name in my phone. They're just phone numbers. So
You're a madman. What is wrong
No,
with
I'm
you?
like that too.
I
What do you
remember
just
who everyone is.
do you remember who everyone is based on the conversations that you had?
Pretty
Yeah,
much.
Do you text a lot? I barely text.
I mean,
Currently, I have
sometimes
122 unread messages. So
You guys, I text you the most, so that shows you exactly how much I text. I don't text anybody as much as I text you guys.
like I do text and then I'll go like 2 days and like not respond to anyone. But
It
yeah,
hurts my heart when that
to
happens.
be fair, I also feel like that's a big guy thing for how to text. Like, dude, my buddy and I will just have the most random conversation. It just ends. There's no clear end. It just ends, and then we'll just start talking again like a couple days later.
It's
also I
usually
forgot.
with good.
I just was gonna say, Connor, I forgot to text you back, but that meme you sent me, I saw yesterday. I sent to my cousins, which is hilarious. The large new part one.
That's hilarious. Yeah, that has to be the most random meme I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, it was good.
I
What
got
is it?
I got a recommendation that I could start out with. It was the Val Kilmer documentary, Val. I think this is a perfect time to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime, is where I watched it. But it's really cool. It's a unique. It's nothing crazy as in terms of a documentary on somebody's life as an actor. Kind of goes through the steps. But the thing that's cool about it is the fact that it explains it at the very beginning. But basically, Val Kilmer recorded so much of his life, so much of his life. So there's like little aspects of his career that you just won't see footage of from someone else's career. Like the thing that stuck out to me the most is very early on in his career, he was on Broadway and worked in New York City, and he has footage of himself. I can't remember what the play that he was doing, but he was the lead in the play. And then all of a sudden, Kevin Bacon came in, and Kevin Bacon was the lead, and he was the understudy. And then Sean Penn came in as the understudy, so he was like third down. So it's cool is the fact that he literally has footage like in the dressing room of himself, Kevin Bacon, and Sean Penn like appearing like a mirror together when they're like 21, 22. So little elements like that. And his son, obviously, because he has throat cancer now when this came out in 2021, his son narrates it, which I think is really powerful. Val Kilmer wrote the script, writes all this stuff. It's told from his perspective, like I was an actor, but it's his son speaking his words. So there's really cool elements where even his son will be taken back by something he writes, and he's like, "Whoa, like this is pretty cool." You see him in the recording studio, the recording booth, saying that stuff. But yeah, I think Dan said it came out with a really good video about it. I mean, I messaged Dan or I messaged our group chat as soon as I found out, but I know that how much Dan especially loves Tombstone, and just that knew the news would be pretty hard to hear. But Dan mentioned it, the fact that Val Kilmer on the surface was a difficult person to work with, but it's the fact that he was just so not in a like a rude or like a Jared Leto kind of way, but he was very serious about acting. And sometimes that just hurt his relationships. Like he divorced his wife just because, which happens a lot in Hollywood. It's just like he was just making movies and he was just so passionate about his work, not in an asshole way, but it's just sometimes how it went. And sometimes he didn't get the roles that he wanted and was frustrated about that, sent stuff off to Scorsese, sent tapes off to that's one cool thing is you could see audition tapes that he filmed of himself for roles that he sent to Martin Scorsese, sent to Stanley Kubrick. He didn't get the parts. But just little things like that. That footage just adds so much to the documentary. And he's just such a goofball of a guy too. He has so much fun. I mean, it went viral, not viral, but people were saying the very last footage of him before he passed away was like him dressing back up in like Batman. Like he loved being Batman. He even says it. I mean, the movie was terrible for him. Terrible suit, but I just love how full of life he still was, even if it seemed like and probably was the fact that his life wasn't flourishing as it once did. But really, really special documentary.
Yeah, and the crazy thing with Val Kilmer is like he had a great career. His career should have been so much more. Like
100%.
in his prime, he didn't get the number of good roles that he should have, and it's a shame. And he was wasted to an extent, I think.
I really don't know why that is either. He's a good-looking guy, good actor. I
He
just don't
got
know why they didn't cast
blacklisted at
him.
one point. I don't remember what. I think yeah, but and I think part of it was sort of maybe his reputation of being difficult, but like
Okay.
when there are literal like criminals in Hollywood and abusers that have gotten so much work, like what? How can he not? How could he not get work?
Yeah.
You used to have a guy who loves the game.
Yeah, I'd recommend. I guess to stick with him, The Saint from 1997. He plays like an art thief who wears all these different disguises. It's very like fun, sort of campy 90s movie, romantic. I think it's really entertaining. Some people don't like it that much, but I think it's you want something that's very 90s and very prime Val Kilmer. I think it's good.
Gonna stick with Val Kilmer, Connor.
I'm not.
Oh,
I'm going to stick with the theme of our episode, though, and I'm just going to recommend Full Swing on Netflix. I'd be curious to see how someone like Dan perceives it, because like a lot of people I know who are not into golf whatsoever said that like they still loved this like documentary style show, basically following the path of a few golfers, one of which who I think is going to win the Masters this next weekend, Scotty Scheffler. Has my favorite golfer of all time in it, Ricky Fowler. But then you also have guys like Rory McIlroy, Brooks Koepka. So I think it follows them, kind of shows the bond they have on the tour and everything. I think it's super good. I've only seen the first season. There's 3 total seasons now. So I'll probably try and get through that. But first, got to knock out some Blumhouse pictures.
that is true. Yeah, I just want to say before we close up, Connor, we haven't mentioned it, but I appreciate you always, especially in this episode, dressing up for the part. You look like a really established golfer right now. So
I'm here for you.
what does your hat say? Good? Good?
It's a brand
good.
called Good Good.
You look good looking today, sir.
I appreciate it.
Dan's holding up Eagles. What do I got? Alien. There we go.
Hell yeah.
I always wear. I know I was off. Well, so I have like button-down shirts with me. I'm on like vacation right now, which is why my backdrop doesn't look the same. And I didn't feel like a button down at 9 o'clock in the morning talking about golfing. I guess it would have been appropriate, but that's why I just like popped on a
Especially
t-shirt.
for the period of Bagger Vance.
That's true. Yeah, all those golfers that are still alive. But next week, guys, we're going to be talking about. By the way, we're really excited for the future of Google Podcasting. We've planned out episodes now for like 2, 3, 4 months in advance, which we're really excited about. Posting now forever and always, maybe 2 episodes a week. Dan and I are doing individual reviews of new releases, but then also themed episodes that will sometimes have to pertain to the movie coming out. But then also, like this week, we're doing Minecraft movie and then also, movies about golfing because of the Masters. So we're really excited. If you guys have listened to the end of the podcast, thank you for listening. We're excited for what is to come. So subscribe to us, follow us if you haven't just yet. But next week, we are talking about our favorite Blumhouse horror movies, to be determined, which we have tons of great horror content creators. We will invite one of them on to talk about that with us. But we're excited to talk about it because Drop is coming out next week. And Dan has watched it. And I will just say, he said, fine, solid movie, which, hey, from Blumhouse, I know we talked about The Woman in the Yard. There's a lot of conflicting opinions about that, but 2 okay Blumhouse movies in a row is a pretty good streak. Then also, Dan and I are going to be reviewing A24's new movie Warfare, which I'm super excited for. Should be interesting just to see that movie and see how it pans out with Alex Garland.
And Connor, you might be. Are you saying that?
Oh, you're going too, right? My bad.
I'm likely seeing it, yeah. I got a baseball game on Saturday, and I'll probably see it afterward.
Good job remembering that. That'd be really cool for you to talk about it with us because, as our listeners know, Connor can't get out that much. Baby, way more important than movies. But appreciate everyone listening to this episode. Thanks Kev, movie man, for being on with us today.
Yeah.
We're excited for this episode to go out. But until we talk about Blumhouse and Warfare next week, please, this week, go outside, sit on a park bench, touch some grass, call up your friends, play some golf. It's pretty nice weather outside, at least in Florida.
Not
But
Midwest.
we'll see you next. Well, sorry for all our Midwest Westerners. All right, peace out, guys. Thanks.